everyone. If you are on the Sistah Scifi email list, you know that today our special guest is Vincent Tirado. I see them in the live, and we will be discussing You Should Have Been Nicer to My Mom, which is a dark humor horror about toxic families. If you loved Vincent's Burn Down, Rise Up, and We Came to Welcome You, you'll love this third book by them. Please drop your questions in the chat. I'm also looking at my email, so I'll be able to see, I'm also looking at the chat. Oh, full screen is what I meant to say. So I'll also be able to see
Oh, hold on. I can't hear you. Hello? Nope. Can you hear me? Okay, so you guys can hear me. Because I cannot hear Sistah Scifi. Awesome. Okay, good. Just I wanted to make sure
okay. No, it was me. Nobody could hear me. Let's start from the top. Hi, okay. This is Sistah Scifi Wednesday, where we work hard to make Wednesday your new favorite day of the week. We are here with Vincent Tirado discussing You Should Have Been Nicer to My Mom. If you like Burn Down, Rise Up, yay! If you like Burn Down, Rise Up, and We Came to Welcome You, you'll love this third book by Vincent. How you feeling?
I'm a little under the weather, if I'm being honest, but I'm powering through.
Thank you so much for coming, even though you're under the weather. I'm in that same boat.
I think it's just changing weather, like it's getting warmer, so I think it's that.
Yeah. So Forever Mood Reading said, I devoured the book yesterday. You should have been nicer to my mom. I was excited about it, just a general principle, but I was telling somebody's like, so what are you reading? My best friend, I was hanging out with them last night, and they're like, what are you reading? And I'm like, I'm reading You Should Have Been Nicer to My Mom. It's like a dark horror blended with the telenovela, and it's just like it's everything I love about your writing. So, how are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, yay. Marcy says, I love the title of the book. So before we talk about the title, what sparked this story? Hopefully
So
not.
I mean, listen, if I'm gonna be traumatized by these hoes, I might as well get paid for it, you know? It was actually, like, I had the idea for it for a while. So I remember really loving the first Knives Out movie. I love all of them, but like, the first Knives Out movie was really like where I had more of the ideas about it. And then when it came to the idea of this inheritance, I was looking into like a lot of Dominican folklore, and which is where I came with the idea of this demon, El Bacà. Because depending on where you are in the island, the idea is it's either a spirit or a demon. It's one of the two. But the function of it remains the same. It is something that you summon yourself to take care of your belongings. So your house, your land, whatever. But when you die, that spirit or demon doesn't just go away. It passes to the next of kin. So in a way, it's sort of its own little inheritance package, right? And so I had the idea of just like, what if you have a big family? How do you know who's the next of kin, really? Because you could technically do like, oh, it's the firstborn or whatever. But if you nowadays, like, if you're being the firstborn almost means nothing, really. Like, it's as long as someone has a written, yeah. Well, yeah, but it's like as long as you have it written on paper, then like that's technically who gets
right.
it. So I thought that the idea would be fascinating in terms of like, okay, what if the thing you were inheriting wasn't good? What if it's something that will essentially drag you to hell the moment it gets a chance? So I really wanted to have a story all about that. And the title essentially came from the fact that I'm tired of those hoes. I'm tired of my family. They're like they should have been nicer to my mom. That's it.
Okay. So now it's wow. Okay, so I don't know if the TS or the TOs are what reading, but yeah, y'all inspired this book. In case you're wondering, y'all are the inspiration.
I want to bring in some of the chat comments. So we talk about the title of the book. Yes, it's like family lore meets this cursed house, which is true, which is so true. That is so true. I mean, like, the tone in this cursed house is different, but yes, I love that comparison. Occasionally educational. Okay. Yes, very Knives Out, which I call Knives Clue. Giving a thumbs up for Knives Clue. Then there's also like, which aligns definitely with both your books, both of your previous books. There's commentary on race and class, right? So
Mhm.
you have the main character and their family being from the Dominican Republic, and then you have Naomi, who's from Haiti.
Mhm.
Tell us about that decision
Yeah.
and what we get to like,
So
and what, yeah.
yeah. So I in talking about like Dominican culture and Dominican values, I thought that it would be inaccurate to not bring up the sentiment of anti-Haitianism in within the Dominican community. Like just because we all live on the same island doesn't mean we often like even respect each other. And so I thought like, okay, I think that in a situation like this, like yeah, you know, we have this very Dominican family and we have this Haitian housekeeper essentially, who's very like Naomi is very well aware of her role and sort of the hierarchy. Like she's like,
Yeah, yeah.
technically, I don't work for you motherfuckers. However, if I'm gonna find out what I get out of this, this death, then I gotta play nice. It's very much like you kind of have to play along with the rules, even if the rules are not fair. And anytime I've read like a Dominican story, the topic of colorism often does come up, which is true. There is colorism within the Dominican community, but it feels like it's lacking the fact that the context of the colorism is rooted in anti-Haitianism
Yeah.
because the darker you are, the more you are thought of as like Haitian rather than, Dominican. And there's like a lot within that history, going with Trujillo and like everything that he like brought up, but it still pretty much continues today. And so like, I'm very proud of like being a Dominican. However, my people get me tired as well.
As far from me as Naomi was tired. And yeah, and I think like what I appreciated is I think sometimes I get so protective of the culture. My parents are from Ghana. And like, but you like, I think in that realness, you created very compelling characters and stories. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. So diving deeper, what I loved about reading this book included, so that's what I'm saying, last three books, is that I have hypothesis of like what is you writing and what is somewhat like these are parts of my characters that I parts of my own personality that I then used to develop the character. So for Xiomara, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. Thank God I'm not.
You're fine.
How did you build that protagonist and her mindset and how she moves about with her family?
Yeah. So Xiomara is okay. The funny thing is, someone brought up the fact that I made her autistic, and in my head, I was like, it's been a while since I worked on this book, so I don't even remember if I did write that in. I did.
Yes.
Apparently, I did write it in. It's been forever, so like there are small details that like escape me. That being said, I do feel that especially with every single book I've written, my characters, to me at least, end up reading autistic. I wasn't diagnosed until I want to say it wasn't last year, it was the year before last. So it was like the November before last. Yeah, I was late diagnosed with autism. Um and so I think that because I had already written books before then, and I always like put a lot of myself into those books, I think that like, Raquel from in Burn Down Rise Up was like mildly autistic, not entirely. She came off as much more sarcastic because that's the way I was as a teen. Anais in We Don't Swim Here is very much like I'm taking note of every single rule possible and I'm going to like kind of follow them to a T. Like she's very organized in that way. Soul is I leaned more into my history of alcoholism for Soul. I was just like, you know what? I was a mess.
Okay.
I was a mess with, when I was Soul. So I leaned into that side more. But also like her depression and her, her mental health, like that was where that came from. For this one, because I already had the diagnosis, I was like, I'm already writing her in a way that feels autistic. So I'm just going to at least put it down for once that like, yeah, this is an autistic character. I completely forgot the question. I'm sorry. Could you? Could you repeat?
That was a great response. We are going to talk in one. I kept saying 3 books and it's 4, so thank you for that correction.
Yeah.
No, you can't count. It is 4. But I did take a huge detour. This was not on my question list of like your diagnosis and making your main character autistic, particularly for. I have somebody in my life recently said I'm autistic, and I was like, I don't believe it. And then I asked somebody else, and they're like, yeah, autism is like usually white tech pros, da 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 da. And so tell us about like your path to being autistic, because the person who was like, you might be autistic talking to me was like, it shows up differently for
Yeah.
women of color who tend to mask and like
Yeah.
have to do all these machinations
Yeah.
to not move stereotypically autistic.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like I remember like growing up as a kid, I never felt like I had my own personality. I often mimic what other people did, and I often also mimicked what characters did. So growing up, I was often told like, "Oh, you talk so white, you act so white," despite being from the Bronx. And it's because all the books that I was reading back then happened to be written about white people, and I was mimicking that behavior. Because I didn't know how else to like, I was like, I don't know how to have a personality. I'm just going to do what like the people that I'm reading about do. And that kind of continued through most of like my high school. Like I was still mimicking like a lot of anime like characteristics, like 'cause that was just like how I was able to get through social situations. I'm not good at social situations whatsoever. I have worked. I even just being on camera right now took me about a year of therapy to work through. Specifically because I had a severe camera aversion. I still think I do. I think if I'm not in front of the camera often enough, I can feel the shakes coming back. I start sweating more. I'm a little like I can feel my heart palpitating. When it comes to like trying to be charismatic, it's definitely something I have to practice.
Right.
For most of my life, I struggle with social situations. And I think that's kind of where the alcoholism came in because it kind of helps a little bit to kind of loosen the reins. But so I think in my case, because I was already Black, Black girls do not get, we don't often get diagnosed with anything other than having an attitude. That's that's all we get diagnosed with. We have an attitude. We think we grown. Like it's always some bullshit. But like in my case, I had trouble understanding like why certain things were so important, like why certain social contexts were so important. Like I remember in high school, genuinely, I remember this like it was yesterday. I was sent to the dean's office to go get paper. I literally like I see the doors open. I knock on the door. I walk in. I'm like, "Hey, can I get? I'm here to get these papers." And the dean looks at me and she goes, "Hi, how are you?" And I'm just like, "I'm fine. Can I get these papers?" And she was just like, "What is?" I'm just like, I was here on a mission. I came to do exactly what I need to do, no more, no less." And to this day, I still feel like I was in the right. Like, I'm just like, you could have just
Good
given
night,
me the
my
papers and I would have been on my way. Like, we're both busy people. What are we? You have a job. You have a job. I'm a student. Let's not play around like both of us have time. But essentially, like, I'm a very straightforward person. I don't, it takes me a very long time to understand people's emotions. I tend to either overthink or underthink how other people are feeling and how I should be responding. It's a whole thing for me. So and over the last couple of years, a lot of my autistic friends would be like, "Yeah, you're definitely autistic," and I was like, "I don't know if I am, but I'll consider that and I'll look into that." And eventually, I found a psychiatrist because my therapist is not trained in,
Yeah.
diagnosing any of that. So I had to like go outside of my comfort zone to find someone. And I did like a round of testing. My wife had to fill out a questionnaire about me. My mom had to do the same. So it's very like a much more holistic, like, how I feel I come across, how other people think that I come across, like it kind of, and so that's how I ended up getting the autism diagnosis. Like, because from my experience, obviously I know how I feel, or I know how I don't feel, or something like that. And so for me, it always felt much more severe, whereas other people, like, I don't emote very well, so they think I'm fine most of the time. And so
Right.
that was like a factor into the diagnosis. Yeah, it was that's essentially my journey. I grew up, as a Black girl, and so was not really diagnosed, because as long as I wasn't causing trouble, then it was whatever. And then I had autistic friends, throughout college who would tell me repeatedly, "Hey, I think you're autistic. I think you should like get tested." And then I finally did, and it was like, "Yeah, you're autistic."
Thank you for sharing that. And yes, and you did make, yes. She's like, I hate change. I was diagnosed with autistic late in life, and I was like, I mean, late for her.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, the root of this horror is intergenerational, right?
Hmm.
And like for the Roger who paralleled this cursed house, it's because the family members themselves have done some really nasty things, right? Which is different,
Yeah.
like, maybe Tanner Du's Black horror, where it's like, which I also love, but it's also like oftentimes terrible things are done to us or our families. Why was
Yeah.
it important for you to flip that script?
Um, it's Again, it doesn't feel okay because a lot of the inspiration I got was not just from Knives Out, but also from my direct family. Like, I can see all the ways that like my family have done each other dirty. Like, it's not so much that I was flipping the script as I was like taking like actual experience and like embedding them in these characters. Granted, none of my family members have done sex trafficking, as far as I know. I'm not there is no ongoing investigation in which I cannot say, like, everyone, as far as I know, no one in my family has committed to doing any amount of sex trafficking. However, the plot point of that was less about, the sin,
Yeah.
and more about like machismo and how far you go in being like trying to be like, oh, this big bad tough guy. Like, similar with one of the aunts. I remember my agent, not my agent, my editor was like, "Hey, I don't think this is more of a sin on her part. Like, she didn't really do anything, and in fact, she got scammed." And I was like, "Yes, however, for Dominican women, that is incredibly embarrassing, and that's kind of the point." The
Yeah.
point is not that she did anything. The point is that she is so embarrassed by it, she's going to make it everybody else's problem. Like, that's such a Dominican woman right there. Like, I'm sorry.
Agreed.
Yeah, so it's like very specific archetypes within Dominican culture that like we're not like perfect victims, but I on many levels we're not victims at all. Like, we're kind of the perpetrators of bigotry towards Naomi, who's Haitian, towards each other, who are women, who, XYZ. A lot of the times, it's sort of like a double-edged sword. Like,
Yeah.
we tend to think that like, oh, we're coming at somebody else, but like you're cutting yourself up too in the process.
There's a lot of an interrogation of your cultural privilege. Maybe I should say
Yeah.
that. Did that feel cathartic? Did that feel scary in and of itself?
No, that was cathartic as hell. Because if I'm being honest, though, it's not even something that was like uniquely to Dominican culture, at least like not in the reception of it. Because while I have a lot of people who like tell me like, oh, this was so relatable, this is definitely my family. Not all these people were Dominican. My one of my close friends who's Mexican was like literally giving me live reactions, and she was just like, "Oh, not you being relatable, bitch. Why you have the gossipy tias for?" And I'm just like, "I'm sorry, because they are." And she's just like, "Yeah, I know. Like that's my tias too." So it's almost like it's something that kind of like we share across the like the Latinx diaspora, and like there's just very specific archetypes that like kind of play into our culture, and so it's recognizable. It's recognizable across like different like nationalities. So like my Mexican friend is just like, yeah, these are like my tias, or oh, why is the cousin like this? Why are like and I'm just like, listen, they're messed up people. That's who they are. We know this. You and I talk chisme all the time. Like we know this is how our family works. Um, yeah, it's definitely it's interesting because even my mom, because I told my mom that I was writing this book, and she was like, "Oh my God, people are gonna read it because they want to know what's messed up in our family." And I'm like, actually, people are thinking about their own families when they read it. Like
Yeah.
they're thinking like, "Oh, this is my mom, this is my uncle, this is my brother." Like they're not thinking that all the horrible things that these people are doing are like what my family has done. They're mostly thinking like, "Oh yeah, this is exactly what these people in my family are like." Like it's really interesting.
Yeah. And I think what I'm really about reading authors from different cultures is I think sometimes authors feel like the descriptions and the stories have to be culturally neutral to be universal, right? Which,
Mm,
like reading books like You Should Have Been Nicer to My Mom. And another author said this. It's like the university happens in the specificity, right? So, like, you have
yeah,
London, that you're making this food, right? And it's
yeah,
like it's the details in like the food that she's making and the listing of the names and the dishes and ingredients that then make it
mm,
universal, right? Because we all have our
yeah.
favorite cultural dishes, whether
Oh yeah,
it's British rice and beans or something. So
yeah.
thank you. I enjoyed it very much. Um, this is also in the synopsis, so this is not a spoiler. So the family's there to read Papi Ramon's will,
Hmm.
which turns out is not a will; it's a warning. So, and in this warning, you do a lot of very interesting things with time. Like to me, it was like very fascinating. So my parents are from Ghana, and I blame that. I use that as an excuse for being late all the time, right? So like one of the things that I was like, oh, this character operates with time very differently. She's like, oh yeah, I showed up 30 minutes ahead of. I was like, oh, so with this warning, you do a lot of interesting things with time in the book.
Hmm.
So tell me how that was either a departure from like cultural representations of time or something you felt like that was in alignment with cultural representations of time.
In my opinion, okay, so it had less to do with, sorry, it had less to do with cultural representation of time for me, and more to do with the narrative that I was kind of weaving. In that I knew that I wasn't going to have it be chapter one, chapter two, chapter three. Each chapter is a timestamp. And so I knew that going into it, it would just, everything would be a timestamp. And in that way, you really do feel sort of an urgency. You do feel somewhat of an urgency because you're literally going minute by minute with these characters. But at the same time, it does feel like there is a lack of urgency with many of the other characters because they just done got told, hey, one of you is a demon. And they're just like, anyways, oh, where's the other will? Like they're very much like this man was senile. He didn't know what he was talking about, which is also another thing that I feel is very Dominican, not in the fact that we are atheists, but we often like don't want to believe the worst unless it's way too late. Like it's never
Oh,
about a disbelief of the supernatural. It's more of like, oh, this wouldn't happen to us. Like, yeah, demons exist, but it's not us that like that's fine. Like whatever. Like that's how we kind of approach it. which also it sickens me. It sickens me every time we do this. Like
So,
we wouldn't have to deal with the consequences of our actions if we dealt with things immediately. Like,
yeah,
ah,
I mean, you're right. I'm also like a keen procrastinator. So you're right. And I would have been the last. I would have been like, oh, we got time. We got a whole 12 hours.
12 hours go by fast when people love to talk, though. Like, oh my God.
And yeah, and so I was looking at the timestamp, and like the timestamps for the chapters did like because it for me who doesn't have the keenest sense of time, I was like, oh my God, the clock is ticking. It is now 11 o'clock. It is. I was like, yeah. So yes. Um, so occasionally, educational students dealing with things. So I heard. Um, so this question. So we talked about the family. We talked about the main character. We even talked about time. But I want to talk about like the house itself.
Mhm.
So definitely similar to like We Came to Welcome You, where the house itself was was more than just a setting. It was like a character. Um, um, and then I'm gonna go jump to like Burn Down, Rise Up. It was like the apartments in the neighborhood was also a character.
Mhm.
And You Should Have Been Nicer to My Mom. The house itself feels like a character. Is that a theme for you? Is that something that you want to be consistent throughout your work? Was that important for this novel?
If I'm being honest, I genuinely don't like. Okay, with Burn Down, Rise Up, I was very intentional about making the Bronx feel like a character. Because to me, like I grew up in the Bronx, it does feel like a character to me. So that's how I wrote it. With We Don't Swim Here, it was more about like I love the idea of spooky small towns, and that spooky small towns also have, a personality and attitude with them. With We Came to Welcome You, the house itself was like, it was very weird. It felt more like an animal to me. It didn't feel like a person. It just felt like sort of an animal that you had to learn its behavior in order to survive. And for this one, if the house to me feels more like a ghost, in that it's like, from chapter one, Xiomara comes up, she sees the house, she's like, oh, this thing looks dilapidated, what the fuck happened here? Like, it's a very different vibe. So I think that, like, when it comes to settings, I tend to write settings in a way that makes them feel realistic enough, and at some point in my writing of the settings, they become real in themselves and become like this extra character that I was like, oh, you were just supposed to be a setting, but I mean, this works. That's fine. Yeah, like that's how I think it. Like Burn Down, Rise Up, 100% intentional. It became less intentional, but it's just my writing style that I like to make the settings feel real enough for the readers as well as the characters.
Yeah, yeah. And it did. The house and like the energy and like them moving through the house, like feeling I think at one point he said cozy, not as in cuddly, but in suffocating. And I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, I could feel that
yeah,
moving through the house. It doesn't feel like, oh, I want to snuggle up and read. It's kind of like, I just
yeah.
need some air.
It's like when you have someone that's like right up on you and you're like, can you go somewhere else, please?
Yes, which um, we will not talk about, Marcus, but that's where that question wants me to go. But we're not going to go there. Because if you want to know why I want to bring up Marcus, you got to read the book. Okay, so this would be a great spot. Would you like to read an excerpt? And since you're talking about it, I think like when Xiomara arrives at the house and like sees like the house and also like the time that she gets there. So it talks about the house, what you do in time.
Yes. I have the book out here, so let me see if I can find. I also want to say this was a very funny coincidence that I did not realize I did. So when I was telling my mom about this book and like telling her like, oh, there's Xiomara, there's this character, and I was like, yeah, and they go to the reading of the will for Papi Ramon, and she's like, oh, you chose your grandfather's name. I chose whose name?
Whoa!
I, because So apparently, I didn't know this. I didn't know this at all because I was only ever close to my mom's side of the family, but my grandfather on my dad's
Mm.
side of the family is Ramon.
Oh,
Did not know that because in my
wow.
mind, I always called him Abuelo. He was just
Oh,
Abuelo. That
right.
was his
Abreu.
name. Like,
And you're like, oh, wow. Look at the ancestors speaking to you.
yeah. So when my mom told me that, I was like, oh no, it's too late to change the name now.
But we should let people know. This just
Yeah.
happens to be the same name.
It
Not
just happens to be the same name. Like, truly, I didn't realize it. I didn't know that. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay, this is a good section. All right. Soon, the car slowed to a stop. Xiomara exited the car and stood in front of the large two-story home, walls painted dark wine with a faded gold trim around the windows. The overgrown lawn pushed cracks into the pavement, and dandelions took residence in the added space. A broken window was boarded up on the second floor. Xiomara's mouth fell open. This couldn't be it. Not the house she remembered. She was so shaken that she actually looked down at the rideshare app on her phone. It pinged her at Papi Ramon's address. She looked back up at the ramshackle state of the house, shaking her head again. Her grandfather had been a man who valued appearances, always wanting to look his best, and that generally extended to his home. But Papi Ramon was dead, and before that, he had long been sick. It was only right that his home would match his condition. Had it truly been that long, though, for the house to look like this? The cold drizzle sapped Xiomara's body heat slowly, and she cursed herself for not wearing a thicker coat. Going to school in California the last couple of years certainly changed her sense of appropriate clothes for chilly weather. She jogged to take refuge under the archway of the front door and lifted a hand to knock, then froze. Something about the house gave her immense pause, the feeling of a field mouse at the entrance of a bear cave, or a lion's mouth. It wasn't just that she was no longer welcome. If she entered, there was no guarantee she would escape. And I'll
Mhm.
leave that with y'all.
Yeah. Yes. That foreshadowing was so intense. And
Yeah.
you really feel like,
I also, just the fact that when I read, oh, her grandfather had been a man who valued appearance, of like, yes, he did. He definitely valued appearances. He definitely, because she ain't know what he was really about. So,
yeah. And it's, I want to get more, there's a whole nother experience reading the book again when you know what the ending is.
yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that's what the author. So yes, yes, yes.
It's nice to play around with double meanings as an author. Like there's one meaning when you don't know what's happening, and then when you do, then there's a second, like much more sinister meaning behind it. It's really nice. It's so delicious.
Yes, I agree with that. Let's go with, and so I just want to bring in occasionally educational status, your prose style. Is so sharp and witty, it really keeps me hooked. And what I like horror horror, what I'm really learning now is that it's sometimes deeply intertwined with a bit of humor, right? Um, yeah, how do you like, 'cause, and also being funny is kind of hard. I mean, scaring somebody else is kind of hard, but to me, being funny is probably harder. How do you balance that in writing? How do you know, like, okay, this, what I just wrote is funny? Because it's not like you're with
Yeah.
friends, you're stand up and like people are laughing or you can
Yeah,
test it.
no, I could not do stand-up comedy. That is not my skill. That being said, I've always been told that horror and comedy are two sides of the same coin because it has to deal with tension and when you cut it. So for me, when it comes to like writing a horror scene, the first thing I think of is, wouldn't it be fucked up if, and like I fill in the blank. And then when it comes to like writing something like, okay, so a fucked up thing is happening right now. Wouldn't it be really funny though if, and like that's kind of how I bring it right back around. On the other level though, I think that particularly, when it comes to white horror, so white people horror, they don't often have a humor about these things in the way that people of color often do, in the way that black people do. Like we tend to come at things with some sort of like some humor attached to it, which I wouldn't even know where it comes from. I think it has this feeling of like, no matter what happens, we will always have black joy. Like, even when we were enslaved, there was black joy happening in like the small moments, you know, in the morning when we weren't fucking picking cotton or sugar canes, you know, in DR or whatever. Like, whatever the situation is, we will always find a way to smile, even in like horrific situations. So on the one hand, I do think there's like this innate, I almost want to say skill. It's like an innate skill, but also like an instinct to like, yeah, life is going to be real fucking horrifying. However, sometimes really funny things do happen, and it's important to be able to laugh. Um, so I come at it in that sort of way, in that like, yeah, these are like black characters, but black people will also always find a way to laugh about something, even if it's fucked up. Like, it's just, it feels realistic to write it in that way. The only way I can imagine a black character is not like trying to make anything funny is if they are the only black person in the room. Then they're like, ain't shit funny about this. I need to go. Like, it's not
Right.
like
Yeah.
it's not a good situation to be in. But yeah, I think like when it's a group of black people, you know, they could be, I don't know if you've seen The Blackening.
Of course.
It
Because
like, yeah,
when I was telling my best friend about the book, they're like, "Oh yeah, kind of like the Blackening," and I'm like, I mean, no, but
but
yes,
yeah,
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 yeah. It's like, no, but yeah, like, you know, because it has to do with you find like little bits of joy, or like you find a way to kind of ease back on the tension, at least for your own sake, if not,
yeah,
you know, just because you genuinely think things are funny.
yes, yeah, and you have one character who's like laughing throughout the whole time, and it's like
Yeah.
one of y'all is a demon, like yeah. So yes, I enjoyed it. So with Burn Down Rise Up, We Don't Swim Here. Um, we came to welcome you, and your most current book you've written across age groups.
Hmm.
Which group do you prefer writing for the most?
I don't think I have a preference. I like storytelling. I like storytelling in general. And so if I have an idea, I will tend to ask myself, which age group would this work best for? And then that is how I write the story. Like, if it ends up being something like, oh, this would be great for YA, then I will write it YA. If it is something that would be better as adult, then I'll write it adult. But I don't think I have a preference, as much as like, I just want to be able to write something. And I want to be able to write something well. So I have to kind of think about like, in which situation would this just work the best?
Mm, mm. I guess I'm just like, what's the consider? Like, is it because the character comes to you and the character's a certain age, or yeah, like what are the? I'm not a writer, so that's
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
worse.
So, okay. So for an example, the way that I start writing any story, is never like the plot itself, but I start with the question of, what is the monster? Wouldn't it be fucked up if this creature existed or this situation existed? So let's say, for an example, we came to welcome you. When I was, before I had the idea, I knew that I wanted an evil HOA.
Yeah,
Why would a teen be up in that shit? Like, it doesn't make sense to
right.
me, you know? Like, it's like the situation is about an HOA. It has to be an adult. It has to be an adult who's trying to run away from an HOA. For Burn Down, Rise Up, the feeling that I was, when I was writing that, I wanted to do a ghost story that was, like, more realistic to me, in that like, if ghosts are supposed to be like these vengeful creatures, I feel like niggas in the Bronx would be the most vengeful, would have the most to be angry about, you know? So, and because I was Raquel's age when I was learning about the Bronx, that was like how it came about. I was like, okay, I'm gonna write it like, you know, for kids, for teens, because this was how technically I learned. Like, I learned about how horrific things were, you know, through XYZ situation. Um, so for when it came to this one, You Should Have Been Nicer to My Mom, it could have, I'm not going to say it could not have been YA. You know, Papi could have like dropped off Xiomara and like been like, all right, let me know. But it wouldn't make sense for me to think that he would do that. So the situation, I have to think like kind of, I start from big, from like, okay, what is the big monster? And then like, as I like go smaller, then I figure out like, okay, this would work better if, you know, this person is of a certain age.
Right.
Because otherwise, if they're not of a certain age, then I have to create like so many different steps to get them to a situation where I finally get to explore the thing I want to talk about. And that's just like way too much work. Like I'd rather do whatever is, you know, like the easiest way to get there.
Yeah. No, and that makes sense. And I mean, like, when you think of like Knives Out, that's probably not a movie where you're gonna have like a child's. I haven't watched Knives Out, so if there was a child character, correct me, but like, you know, it'd be a
I
very
think
appropriate child.
I feel like there was definitely, oh yeah, no, there was that there was that one like kid who was like for some reason a neo-Nazi or something. It was wild. He was definitely a teen. He was a teen, and you know he spent way too much time on Reddit. Like that was the vibe he gave. You know, it's
Okay.
just like someone's got to supervise when you're on the internet, kid. Like this isn't healthy. So yeah,
So Marcy said that they just purchased their car fleet. Awesome, Marcy. I know you'll enjoy it. Marcy also says Negroes in the Bronx would make a great book title. I don't know if your editor is going to approve the original
they.
word, but
My agent would be like, listen, I'm not gonna even try it. Don't even try it. And I'm gonna be like, that's fair. That's fair.
um, okay. Okay. So great. We're doing great on time. So this will be my last question. If you have questions watching, drop them in the chat, and then we'll go into this or that. When readers finish the book, what do you hope stays with them most? The mystery, the horror, the family reckoning, or the questions of what it means to defend somebody who was never appropriately protected?
That is that. That's a good question. I think if there's anything I would want people to, that's a good question. I think what I would want people to really come away with it is sometimes there isn't a perfect answer to things. Sometimes there is only the decision that you can live with the best.
Mm, mm, mm. Would
Some
you go ahead? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's it. Like there's not a perfect answer for everything. It's just what would you regret the least at this
Yeah,
point?
yeah. Which is a very, I am going to say this, and I'm going to bring this back to something we were talking about earlier. A very ambiguous answer for somebody on the spectrum. Like the person who's like, "Oh, you're on the spectrum." It's like ambiguity makes me very nervous. I'm like,
That's fair. I
that's
think
not good. I mean, I know I appreciate what you're saying. I'm just saying,
no,
like
I
that.
mean ambiguity makes me angry if anything.
Mm,
In that so it makes me angry in that I prefer things to be cut and dry. It would make things a hell of a lot easier if things are cut and dry. However, what makes me even angrier is when people don't acknowledge that, like, you know, there isn't a cut and dry. Like, if there's going to be like shades of gray, tell me that there's shades of gray. Don't say like, well, parts of it, if you squint, is black, and the other. I'm like, no, no, don't play around with me. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
too old for this.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
I prefer like Xiomara. Um, I don't have to like something. I just have to be able to acknowledge it, and it's much more easily like I can handle that much better. But
Right,
you have to acknowledge it. You have to let me acknowledge it,
right,
and then I can move on. Otherwise, I'm going to be pissed.
right. Otherwise, it's just gaslighting. If
Right.
you want to join this conversation, you can click this arrow. You can follow Sistah Sci-Fi. You can follow Vincent on Instagram and just stay up in these conversations all the time. If you're wondering, if you just joined and you're wondering what book we're talking about You Should Have Been Nicer to My Mom. And I've also dropped a link in the chat if you want to get even more information. Okay. Now we're moving to my second favorite part of the live. My first favorite part of the live is everything we've been doing thus far. Vincent, you know about this, all about this. I think I did this in the other two lives. Let's say that I did. Okay. So what I'll do is this or that rapid fire. So Vincent, I'll give you two options that are loosely inspired by You Should Have Been Nicer to My Mom. If you're watching, you can drop your response in the chat. Then we'll discuss and we'll go on to the next one. I have about four. Um, the initial answers should come really quick. But yeah, sound good?
Yep, sounds good.
First one, fight the demon or confront the family.
Confront the family.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense. That
It's
makes
easier
sense.
to confront the family than to fight a demon. I've never fought a demon before. I can confront my family. I know what that would feel like.
I think, why would I say I'd rather fight a demon than confront my family? I need to sit with that. Occasionally, education also says a demon, though, in my defense.
Yeah, fair.
But yes, but also I've never fought a demon, and maybe that's it. Like you were talking about, like
Yeah.
the procrastination of some people. I'm like, I'll never fight a demon, so I'm gonna choose fight a demon, and it's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
Marcy also says fight a demon. Okay, read the will or leave the house immediately. I will give the caveat. Like I know that Xiomara could not leave the house, right, because of a host of different reasons. But yes,
Yeah. If it were me, leave the house immediately.
same.
Yeah. Especially if I don't like them. Like why? I don't need to be here with y'all. Like, just call me when he's back. Call me when the lawyer comes
Yeah,
back. Like, that's it.
I was like, just email me what I need to do.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
this could have been an email. This could have been an email.
So heard. Trust the warning or trust your instincts.
That's a hard one. Trust the warning.
Yeah. Is that what you typically do in like? Because I know I'm more of an instinct. I know I should be trusting more warnings, but I think I usually just go with my instincts and I'm like, dang it, I got that warning. Why didn't I? Yeah.
I mean, my own feelings my own feelings are so nebulous to me that, like, even if I do feel a certain way, if I don't understand the reasoning behind it, if I can't if I can't follow the logic, then I'm less likely to go along with the feeling. But if, like, I have something written on paper, if there's a logic to it, I'm more likely going to go with whatever seems more logical.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Speaking of more logical, so I'm just gonna go back to your last two books. Yes. And we came to welcome you. Soul was um a biologist,
Yeah, biologist.
and then Xiomara is a computer scientist. So
Yeah.
very logic based careers.
Yeah.
Where you're a writer and I think a podcast producer. Did I make that up?
No, you did not.
Okay.
I do produce podcasts on occasion.
So how does like, because I have a certain hypothesis that people always say like certain personalities go into certain careers, but my hypothesis now is that certain careers like create your personality. Like if you're doing like, so yeah, so how is it like writing people with careers that are very like logic based and I mean writing can also be very logic based and structured, but it's not.
Well, honestly, those are just also my background. So, in We Came to Welcome You, Soul's research has to do with Toxoplasma gondii. That was what my college thesis was on. So, like, that was just something I knew, like, because I studied that. When the pandemic first started and I could not do lab research because everything was shut down, I ended up doing a coding boot camp. So I got into tech that way. So it's again, like I put so much of myself into characters, but in very different ways that like people think like, oh, how did you conceive of this? And I'm just like, that's just me with like a different shirt on. I'm sorry. That's me with a hat on. That's me with like a Scooby-Doo mask. I don't know what to tell you.
You're like it's me. Okay, I love it.
Yeah.
And I think I asked you the same question about soul, and you gave me that answer. And then I was like, "There's a connection," but I was like, "What?" Yeah. So thank you about that. That makes perfect sense. Um, inheritance money or peace of mind.
Inheritance money. I'm so tired of being broke. I'm so tired of being broke. I am so tired.
Yeah. When I wrote the question, I was like, peace of mind. And then I was like, wow, you know what I can do with an inheritance fitting? So yes, I'm
Right?
with you.
Like let me stress out while I'm in Paris. Like I can be let me stress out on a beach in Tahiti or something. Like that's fine. I like just give me the money.
So I'm here with you with that. Forever Mood Reading also says the money. Occasionally educational, had to go to bed, so I hope she gets good rest. We had lots of votes for Instincts. All the votes were for Leave the House. We talked about the demon. Boom! How do you feel? You did great.
Thank you.
I knew that
You had, I would
you
not expect. Usually, when people do this or that, it's like nothing related to the book. So this was interesting to think, like, oh, if I were in Xiomara's shoes, like, what would I actually do? And yeah, it's the book would be very different if it was like pure, if it was all me, and like I come to this house and like, oh, it's all my relatives here. You can just you hit me up. Here's my number. Just text me what I get. I'm gonna keep it going. Or a second way I can imagine, like if I decided to rewrite this book, I think it would be interesting if Xiomara was like, "Hey, I'm going to ride with the lawyer to go and find the
yeah,
will." Like that would have been another interesting detour to take.
yeah,
So yeah, but didn't happen for this one.
yeah, and that's fine. I mean, like, I understand why she stayed, but there was one point where Tamara was like, "Oh, I'm gonna like it's raining. How am I gonna dip out of here?" And she's like, "Well, the bus stop is like 3 miles away. I don't know if the lift is gonna." I was like, "Oh, I'm trying to ride with the Lord because I definitely know I'm not trying to ride with any members of this family." And that was early in the
Yeah,
book, right?
yeah,
But it made like once, like I think it was good that the rain was so like catastrophic. So it's not like,
yeah,
man, this demon is out to get people. I think I'm gonna be out, right? It's like, no,
yeah,
like this is torrential. Like the news is saying you gotta shelter in place.
yeah,
That was good. And I think like there's Bricia Armada, it's not just the will, right? It is
yeah,
like really like confronting like defending her like what her crazy family has been saying about her mom her whole life, right?
yeah,
And I would not want to go, but I could see why she was motivated to stay because of that. And I think she made
yeah,
that
yeah,
very clear in the beginning. And I mean, I
yeah.
think that's why she's not, it's not like she was like, I'm here to get the books from the library. So she's not like trying to
Yeah.
like
Yeah, and I mean, like there's a because my grandmother passed last November, and so when it came to cleaning out her apartment, like all my extended relatives were up in that house. I didn't want to be there, but being in my grandma's house was definitely just something I needed as like a closure thing. So excuse me, I can definitely see Xiomara being like, yeah, I don't like these motherfuckers at all, but like I did spend my childhood here and I kind of want to soak up whatever feelings I get from that and like process it in my own way.
Yeah, yeah. So I agree. So we'll close out with Marcy saying, "You did a great job!" Explanation point. I enjoyed this interview. So I'm looking over here because that's where my
Yeah.
monitor screen is. Um, I'm looking forward to reading the book. I was planning to see you in VA on 425, but my plans changed. Hopefully, I'll get to see you in person one day. I'm sure that
I'm
will
glad you were able to come
happen.
here.
Yeah, in person
Yeah.
is going to happen. Follow, I'm sure you already follow Vincent's Instagram page to stay up to date on their upcoming in-person events.
Yeah.
Huzzah. Okay, so I guess I'll see. Oh, yeah, what's today? What should we be waiting for? Oh, and also
Uh,
to be like, this book just published. Don't ask me that question, right? And that's
I
this.
mean, so the funny thing is, you asked about like what age range I prefer writing in. So I have submitted my first middle grade novel to my agent, and she sent it out to the ether to all these editors. We'll see if anyone bites. I'm told that people were interested. It is so it's less of a horror and it's more of a horror comedy in the vein of we came to welcome What We Do in the Shadows.
Okay,
Um,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
so it's definitely it's about like this young girl in middle school who is in danger of repeating the grade because her best friend, who is a vampire, keeps getting her to skip class to go on all these adventures. And she's like, I really gotta like lock in and study for my classes. Like You're getting me off track. I'm not trying to spend eternity with you. Yeah, so I'm really it was really fun to write that one. And I think I wrote it horror comedy because I truly don't know how to write something scary for middle schoolers.
Right.
It's really like, and I know I've read horror like stories from it. Like I grew up on Goosebumps, you know, like obviously it
Yeah.
can be done. It's not a skill I've developed yet. So, we'll see in the future.
Where's it set?
I had it set like in Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is like one of the oldest states, like just, Gettysburg and all that stuff. Like
Oh,
it's,
got it.
yeah. Yeah, so I just like have it set and also Pennsylvania just feels like it has the vibe of an extremely old ass state. So yeah, I just decided to do that.
Okay, and I guess you can't tell us the profile. Okay, so we're excited about that. Your first middle grade novel. Yay. Awesome. So fingers crossed. I'm sure it'll get picked up. I'm sure it'll
Get
get picked
better.
up.
It's better because it was fun to write, but I would prefer, to be paid for the writing I did.
So yes, yes, I'm excited. I really hope it gets picked up. Yay, Vincent! It was a pleasure speaking with you, and hopefully soon we'll be talking about your first middle grade horror comedy.
Yep, I hope so.
All right, talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.